Hi, this is Dr. Pike again for LDR330. We're in week 6, and we're going to cover Effective Leadership by Ronald Humphrey. And this is Chapter 11, Identity Processes, Individual, Relational, Social, Organizational, and Cultural. When we're beginning to talk about identity, we need to break it down into its components. In the narrowest of terms, identity is one's own self-definition, their values and their beliefs and their feelings about themselves. In the broader sense, identity has to do with goals, beliefs, skills, abilities, and typical behaviors. There are levels to identity. Individual and independent identities are defined as individual traits, characteristics, and behaviors. It's what distinguishes us from others. Self-esteem is based on our comparison with others. Interpersonal and relational identity. Coexisting with others, a spouse, coworker, subordinate, or supervisor. Levels of identity continued when we're talking about collective identity and social identity. We're speaking about our place in a social group, our membership in that group. There is value and emotional significance attached to membership. Organizational identity is properties of the organization that are distinctive to the individual. It's central to the way an organization operates. This is how we meet the operational goals of a specific organization. Cultural or national identity exhibit cultural values, characteristics, beliefs, values. As a leader, you want to learn to embrace diversity in different cultures. Roles. Core identity. This is the self as an occupant role and the expectations of that role. It's assuming a responsibility for participating within a group or organization in a specific position. Cognitive categories of those positions are what we understand about a role and how we apply it. Now, when we're talking about our multiple selves, I want to use an example. Someone may be a wife, a mother, a sister, a grandmother, also could be the CEO of an organization, and they're going to act different to participants and stakeholders in each of those roles that they assume, whether they're a grandparent or the CEO. It's going to dictate how they interact with others. Leader identity. The more the leader believes in the role, the more authentic they appear to their followers. You must believe in yourself. Emotion is important. Followers must feel a compatibility with their leader. It's a two-way empathic bond. There has to be a value that goes both ways. You care for that person, and that person cares for you. Leaders in the simplest formulaic position, they are interested in their followers, how effective they are, their values. Let me fix that real quick. There's a U that belongs in there, and goals. And this then impacts the follower's performance. When a leader obtains their role, they don't need to do it aggressively. You can present yourself as a collaborative leader, a person that obtains authority but doesn't hold authority over others. And that is a very complex statement in that you don't have to be aggressive all the time to be a leader. You can be a collaborative person that leads others to the benefit of an entire organization, the leader included. When one is granted leadership status, those people that are in power sees the beliefs and traits in that person to be able to lead the organization better. If you want to be a leader, then act like a leader. Doesn't matter if you're in a subordinate position now or you're in a leadership position. And you need to let those in power see you doing it. And the best leaders empower others, not only through delegation of unpleasant tasks, but assisting them and cultivating them by teaching them how to lead themselves. Establish a positive self-image by emulating desired leader traits in the people that you see. I wish I could lead like that person, or I wish I had the respect that that person draws from their subordinates or coworkers. Emulate those traits and learn to integrate them throughout your entire working career. Work and team affect and performance. Work centrality. Work is central to one's life. Now, this statement is dangerous because we know that we all have obligations. You as a non-traditional student may be coming to this as you're a full-time college student, but the majority of non-traditional students have families, work, social obligations, religious obligations, things that have to be met. And work centrality can be a dangerous thing. You know, we work to live, and we don't live to work. And this is something that a leader should be informed of. When employees have high levels of identification with the team, performance is higher. What that means is motivation or the buy-in from team members and faith in their leader is important. Trust is a two-way street. Now, this statement's very simple, but if you're desiring to have trust from your employees, then shouldn't you first have a little trust in them? Now, moving on, we're going to go to the put it in practice for this chapter. 1. People want leaders they can identify with. Build your customer base by creating an image that customers can identify with. 2. Develop all the components from your identity from a narrow focus on yourself and your values to a broader definition that includes your skills and behavior. 3. Build self-esteem by activating the right level of identity, individual identity, interpersonal and relational identity, and collective and social identity. 4. Boost your leader performance by activating your collective identity and by acting altruistic to your subordinates. 5. Recognize that you have multiple identities. To maximize your sense of authenticity, pick roles that are relatively consistent with each other. The more you identify with your leadership role, the more authentic you will feel when performing your leader duties. 6. Increase your followers' performance by helping them identify with their role. When they identify with their role, they will want to validate their role identity by performing their jobs correctly. Increase group identity by treating followers as members of a group. 7. Build follower identification with the organization by encouraging followers to socialize together and by tying in large number of extracurricular activities to their organizational membership. Use distinctive clothing, logos, colors, symbols, lingo, and even architecture to build your organizational identity. 8. Construct your own identity and overcome work identity integrity violations by engaging in identity customization and identity enrichment. 9. Claim your leadership identity by valuing and rewarding subordinates who grant your claim to leadership. Make sure that your subordinates have a common mental model of leader-follower interactions. 10. Develop your own identity by building deeper and more meaningful relationships with others. Our relationships with others form the heart of our identity. Save a part of your heart for your own individual identity. 11. Increase your career success, salary, promotions, and career satisfaction by making work a central part of your identity, not the most predominant part. In the extra hours. 12. For high-performing teams, create high team identification in positive, effective climates. 13. Trust your employees. Surveillance and over-monitoring reduces the odds that your followers will identify with you. 14. Beware conformity. Build organizational identity while still respecting other people's right to have their own individual identities. Encourage people to express their doubts about the wisdom of organizational policies. 15. Organizational identity is important to people, and people may still identify with an organization after they leave or after it ceases to exist. Build that type of strong identification by sponsoring organization-related clubs, associations, sport teams, networks, etc. 16. When leading people from different cultures, recognize that cultures differ in their beliefs about how leaders should behave. In particular, pay attention to these dimensions: charismatic, value-based, team-oriented, participative, humane-oriented, autonomous, and self-protective. 17. Create your own ideal self by having role models, cultivating positive thoughts and attitudes, knowing others, reading and striving for self-improvement, choosing uplifting friends and activities, forming positive relational identities with superiors, and by demonstrating your talents. And that is our 17 key takeaways from this chapter. That's the end of this lecture. On to the next.